Kamala Harris putting the fear of God into every Democrat who might sit out 2024. The vice president strutting like a girl boss as she claims to be ready to take over the big job. And that's the presidency. You go, girl. Huh? President Biden sent her overseas to Indonesia, and she came back in his place for a big summit. And that's where she reminded voters that she's one sandbag away from the top job.
Do you feel prepared for that possibility? And serving as vice president prepared you for that job?
Yes. Joe Biden's going to be fine. So that is not going to come to fruition. But let us also understand that every vice president understands that when they take the oath, that they must be very clear about the responsibility they may have to take over the job of being president. I am no different.
Oh, yes, you are. But before she ascends the throne, Kamala still has to play the game and butter up her boss.
Our president has been an extraordinary leader who has accomplished things that previous presidents hoped and dreamed and promised they would do and did not achieve. I see how his ability to understand issues and weave through complex issues in a way that no one else can to make smart and important decisions on behalf of the American people have played out.
Who is she talking about? And if you dare get in her way, there will be hell to pay. Kamala's allies are warning Gavin Newsom to stay away from a presidential run, or they'll tar and feather him as a racist. One strategist saying, quote, "When you had people who were trying to test the waters, the party rose up and made it clear to those individuals, who are mostly white men, that to disrespect the vice president would not be well received by women and people of color within the party." They got a little bit of a smack in the face. Harold, this is amazing. By the way, it's great to see you at the table. Hope the U.S. Open is treating you well. Thank you. You got a tan, I can see.
Thank you.
You know, so it's going to be racist to pick Gavin over Kamala, but it's not racist to keep supporting the oldest white dude on earth. How do you make sense of this?
Good to be back. A couple of things. I'm not surprised that she would say what she said about being vice president and being ready to step in. That's what vice presidents do. I don't know of any vice president in the history of the country that would not say that. Two, if for some reason Joe Biden does not run and Vice President Harris decides to run, I think she would has to expect to have a number of competitors, because people believe this race here would position them to serve for 4 to 8 years, especially if it's President Trump. There's a belief on the Democrat side that he can be defeated. And so you would have a competitive marketplace, which I don't think should surprise anyone. I take issue. I know Karen Finney, and I like her a lot. I don't think it's racist or sexist to say that someone else believes that they have the goods and they have the ability to speak to the American people, meet them where they are, and help them rise to a different point. Just because they're a white male or an Hispanic male or a black male, whatever it may be, they have to go before the voters. And I understand there may be some hurt feelings on the part of some in the party that the vice president would not be the front runner if something like this were to happen. I think President Biden's going to run for re-election. But I'm not one to always reduce things to race. And I think this is one of those moments where we ought to show some restraint.
Oh, never. Judge, you know how the VP is supposed to be like America's insurance policy? It's actually, she's Joe's insurance policy. Right? Isn't that hilarious? It's like he has to stay in because she can't be president.
Well, everyone knows. I mean, why would you impeach Joe Biden? I mean, look at what you get. But what I think is so fascinating is when she says that, she can tackle the presidency, she's up to it. I mean, how can she do that when she has no apparent interest in anything that she's doing? She's the border czar. She's been the border czar, and she hasn't been to the border in, I think it's 803 days. She had one trip there. And according to this new book, there's a part of it that says that she doesn't want to work on women's issues or anything having to do with race.
Ooh, I like her now.
Oh, But I think, you know what? I think people want honesty. When you get up there and you say, I've watched Joe Biden, and he is in a position where he can handle things and resolve them in a way where no one else can, or in a way that no one else can. The guy needs a cheat sheet to figure out when to stand up, when to sit down, when to leave. He was at the award ceremony. When was it? Yesterday? He left as soon as, by the way, without his mask, because he puts the award on the war veteran, and he just leaves. He just leaves in the middle of it. You know, and let me just say one thing about Gavin Newsom. I mean, you know, identity politics only goes to a certain length. I think, you know, when they start playing identity politics, that she is entitled because she is that person. I mean, to disrespect someone, you have to have respect for them in the first instance. And I'm not so sure she has that.
What do you make of all this, Dana? This is what happens with identity politics. You end up making bad choices, and then the other choices are kind of kept out.
When you look at some of the polling from Democrats about Kamala Harris, that's what I would focus on, because she's not going to win over Republicans. She knows that. They do need to win over independents, yes, but she's also in a position of having to convince Democrats that she could do it. So that's actually a harder thing. It's also getting very late for any other Democrat to stand up a national campaign that's other than the vice president. So I think if there was a target of opportunity for somebody like Gavin Newsom or whoever might be at this table to take a shot, that window is closing quite rapidly. Watching her at this event, okay, fine, that's great, whatever, it's fine. But compare that to what you'll see this weekend. Joe Biden leaves for India tomorrow. It's a big meeting. That's she's at the pre-meeting. And so you'll see his interactions with those leaders compared, and will he be in a mask? I don't know. The other thing about this notion that Democrats would send a shot to Gavin Newsom saying, don't you dare. Do you remember, go back in the Wayback Machine with me, in 2008, the late Bill Richardson, former governor and somebody who had worked at the UN for Bill Clinton, he made a decision to endorse Barack Obama over Hillary Clinton, even though he was a major Clinton loyalist, partly because he wanted to win. And he thought that the way that they could win was with Obama. It turns out he was right.
There you go.
Little history lesson.
Wow, see? Jesse, do you have any history lessons?
I wonder, did she have to wear that funny shirt when she was over there? No,
Yes,
sometimes they make it, right.
Yeah.
So that's why Joe didn't go. He didn't want to wear the funny shirt.
Yeah, he's going to India, though. He's going to India where they're
Doesn't
Indians.
have to wear a funny shirt.
No, he'll probably wear a headdress.
They make you wear that shirt.
Yeah, he'll bring a peace pipe.
I thought she looked okay in that shirt.
Do you know how sometimes when you have to do your eye test at the doctor and they go to the lower level and you start going, see? T? That's how Kamala talks. And she's just guessing, and she's just leaving wide gaps in between statements. The answer that she gave on the vice president being able to take over the presidency, I didn't think was good, Harold. Here's why. There's extra sensitivity to the question because he's the oldest president we've ever had. So she's not like all the other past vice presidents. So there's extra scrutiny on her and that answer. And that answer, she showed way too much leg. You just say, Joe's healthy. I don't even consider it a possibility. Done. That's it. And now we're doing a segment on it because she's coming for the throne. Gavin Newsom is probably going to challenge if something happens to Joe. And doesn't matter about race or gender. The money is going to tell you who's the nominee. That's it. People don't care. You'll see where the money goes. Visually, to see her strut through the pageantry was the first time I could actually imagine her as president. And I just can't take her seriously. Knowing all the ridiculous things she said, despite the pomp and circumstance and the great choreography, I just reminded of the fact that she loves Venn diagrams and that she hasn't been to Europe either. I just can't get that out of my head. You know, you had that quote from the book by Ford, the judge said. She said she didn't want to do anything about race or gender. Then she said, but I want a majority of my staff to be African-American and female. Right. And then she quit her border czar job. It just doesn't give you a lot of confidence that she's going to be able to deliver.
She didn't want to be around minorities.
Look, is that your interpretation?
No, I'm just saying, hypothesizing. That's what I've heard on the street.
That's what you've heard? Those are your sources?
Yes.
Maybe it's reciprocal because they're all quitting.
If she does run, for saying that circumstances present itself, she'll have to win a primary. And if she wins a primary, I
More
don't
than
think people, right. Well, she have to win one primary, well, the Democratic primary, the caucus primary, but she will be a stronger candidate if she has to do it. And if I were her team, I'd welcome that kind of challenge because to win over Republicans, she's going to have to show. And again, this is hypothetical. Joe Biden's going to be the nominee.
Yeah, but you know what's
crazy.
interesting? What's interesting is that she didn't laugh her way through that answer about being president. She didn't giggle. She always giggles.
Yeah.
Progress.
She's
Progress.
changing.
What, don't you guys
Progress.
remember when everything was about Trump lying? He just lies and lies and lies. Have you ever seen that much lying? I mean, weren't they supposed to be better than this? I mean, that was minutes, pure minutes of lying there with a straight face. Straight ahead. Some breaking news. Looks like Hunter Biden is about to get indicted.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.